We have key interventions that can be implemented easily. One of them is just at first to address the immediate needs of people who are hungry. We have 114 million people who need food assistance across the country. For those people, they cannot wait for a long-term solution. They need food now. We should improve also access to land in areas where people have been displaced because of insecurity. We have more than 2 million internally displaced people in Borno, around 1 million in Yobe State, and around 500,000 in Adamawa.
Generally, CH is done, although it is done at a point in time, but it usually classify people in two: the current situation and the projected situation. The current situation usually is a situation when the analysis is being done, while the projected situation is what we call the lean season, which is usually between June and August. Between June and August, this is a period where food prices are at their peak, obviously because there is depletion of food stocks, and that depletion now in the markets also reduces the quantity of food that is in the market, and this now gives rise to rise in price.
My name is Honorable Moses Estienne. Chairman, Nutrition and Food Security, Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly. My question is for the presenter of the representative of Mr. Davidson. Nutrition and Food Security in Nigeria, building resilient and sustainable system. And now in the data presented, the resource person makes us to understand that 1.8 million people, provisions have been made for 1.8 million people in need. And then it went back as saying that these are the vulnerable people in Nigeria that the World Food Program make adequate provision for in Nigeria. My question is, how do you determine the vulnerable people to the tune of 1.8 million in Nigeria? And where is that generated from? And how many people are from Akwa Ibom State that I come from?
There are a couple of these companies that have started establishing industries in this country that are using food as raw materials. Like there is one in Benue for production of ethanol, and the raw material they use is cassava. And they use, in fact, the whole cassava that is produced in Benue, if we even give it today, it will not even be up to 25% of what they need. They go as far as Niger State, Plateau State, Nasarawa State to import cassava. And they go to Taraba to bring cassava also. So I don't know. If there is no massive production and these raw materials are competing heavily with what the humans are taking, is there no need to have a legislation to guide that?
Government, particularly at the federal level, particularly the National Assembly, I think there should be a legislation or an engagement with the CBN to see how we can create a friendly economic policy that will reduce the interest rates in this nation so that it can encourage a lot of people to go into farming. I can tell you, farming, as we all know, is the only industry that can create employment opportunity, that can reduce the lot that we are facing as a nation. But if we are serious about it, I think it is time for us to look at the holistic approach to the issue so that we can be able to address this very important document.
Our major concern in rural areas, we are not getting fertilizer in a good time. You are expecting to get fertilizer by early March, April. You can't get it until June. So this is a very serious problem. So this issue too, as a legislature, I think we are supposed to put it together to liaise with the National Assembly to make an effective way out, so that to make sure that our peasant farming can get their fertilizer in a good time.
If you ask me as a layman, I'll tell you that two key factors that have deepened the challenge of food or that has made it difficult for us to have food. The number one is insecurity. Insecurity. And for those of us from the southern part of the country, it becomes worse, because the food we eat, 80% of the food we eat come from the north. Whether you like it or not, this is the truth. Now, when you talk about food production, forget about the mechanized farmers, so those who have farms. They have a way of taking their produce and going out of the country. Talking about rural farmers who bring out their farm produce from the bush and go to the next local market, either daily market, or if you come to the part of those of us from southeast, the markets that come every 4 days. They are the ones that are actually supplying food that we are eating. Now, where are we? Those farmers are no longer able to move into the farmland and farm because of insecurity. Either the herdsmen go and kill them, or herders clash, or what have you.
What we call the critical window of opportunity is the first 1,000 days of life of a child, the period between conception and age 2, the second birthday of the child. And during this period, there is a very rapid brain development. This leads to cognitive, social, behavioral, also physical and mental development of the child. And early and consistent nutrition interventions, making sure that the pregnant woman eats nutritious meals, lead to the birth of a healthy baby. And during infancy, during toddlerhood, up till age 2, the baby is being fed with nutritious meals, exclusive breastfeeding where possible, and nutritious meals after that can lead to an extra or an added year of educational attainment.
We try to do some analysis sometime from 2022 into 2023 to say we have gone past more than half of the lifespan of this MFAN, the costed plan. So how are we doing in terms of that? Now, when you look at the MFAN costing year on year, you look at 2021, 2022, and 2023, you can have an idea of how much the nation should have spent. Now, this is focused on federal.
So it means that in our budgets, we are not making sufficient provision for nutrition. When you look at allocations versus what the NDA actually spends, you also see that there's a differential as well. Yes, that's on the left, and then across the selected states, Kano State, looking at some more details. 40% reduction in stunting by 2025 will give Nigeria a gain of about $29 million, all the way from 2035 up to 2060. So I think it's an investment worth making.
My question is to the Chairman Committee on Food Security. In my state, we only have Committee on Agriculture, which I believe this could be a department under Ministry of Agriculture. So the challenge is, in order not to have conflict of responsibility, are we going to make a law that we either promote this to an agency, or how do we engage without having conflict with the committee chairman on agriculture, and me coming in now as a separate body How do we work? How do we synergize? Because this is important, we need to escalate it, but to what extent can we do it, sir?
So I want to believe that the Speaker of the House, in his wisdom, who bought into this idea and carved out the committee that you are chairing, would also find a way to ensure that the existing committees of agriculture and health don't feel threatened. All right? Okay, so where you have this situation is where people are not pursuing defined goal and objective. That's why you have this conflict. But where people are pursuing well-defined goals and objectives, what is the goal and objective? To put food on the table. Make sure that the food that is on the table is nutritious. That's objective.
I want to bring the ground rules. Each person is expected on the panel to briefly introduce themselves and also to note that we'll be asking questions in turns. Mrs. Dumebi will take on some questions specifically to the UN entities, and I will be taking questions to the National Primary Healthcare Agency, FAO, and the Honorable Member.
What are the WFP's few long-term goals for addressing malnutrition and food insecurity in Nigeria, and how does it plan to achieve them?
I think we all agree that for us to be able to produce more food in the country, make food available and accessible, we need peace and security. That's how people can go back to their lands. That's how people can have access to livelihood opportunities. But once that is done, we need to support them to start producing what we consume. And the way we can do it is to help them with irrigation systems so that they can farm during the rainy season, but also during the dry season.
I do ask the following question. One, what are FAO's initiatives in Nigeria to combat malnutrition? And two, the follow-up question, how will these initiatives align with Nigeria's national health strategies?
Let me say that FAO is a member state-based organization of the United Nations, and by that, it is part of the government, the host government in Nigeria. And therefore, activities of FAO are being agreed through a medium-term strategy that FAO develops in conjunction with the government, the country programming framework. It is a medium-term strategy that spans up to 5 years of collaboration between FAO and the government. And the current one, which is the 2023-2027 framework, identifies 4 key areas for collaboration with the government.